All right, y'all. It's time to get it started. Let's get it started.
Right.
Let's get it started. Okay, I had to break out a little MC Hammer, but what did he say? Was it let's get it started? It was let's get it started. Yeah, let's get it started. Okay, anyway. So, just a little giddy, a little crazy. It's Thursday. It's August 3rd. It's our third day of the week. And I am so excited again to be before you guys. So welcome back to day 3 of Crush College Debt Virtual Back to School Rally. It's your host, yours truly, Coach T. And I have some fabulous, wonderful, special guests with us tonight. Yay! I should have had my little shakers to make some noise up in here. I'm gonna have to make sure I have some props next time.
Or you could have told me about a shaker.
Let me introduce you to first. We're gonna introduce our college student here. We have the wonderful, the fabulous Sydney Davenport. Woo! Hello, Miss Howard University. Woo-hoo. And okay, y'all know I have not been drinking or anything like that. So if y'all wonder, like, why is she just so giddy? Okay, I'm just, I'm trying to have fun. Then we have her mom, the fabulous Susan Mosley. Miss Project Manager, Leader, Extraordinaire, Mom, etc. Welcome. Say hi, Sydney and Susan.
Hi, everyone. Oh, sorry.
All right, so welcome. What I wanted to do tonight, we started off the week talking about the importance of parental involvement, and gave some strategies on how parents can help their kids get college and career ready. And we gave you some tips. We talked about after school programs and the importance of that type of engagement as well. And then yesterday, I talked about dual enrollment, gave you all some tips on dual enrollment, spoke about the benefits and why it is a strategy every parent should pursue for their child. Tonight, you are going to have the opportunity to hear from these two dynamic ladies about their experience from the whole college preparation piece till now, being in college, as well as life after college and what we've seen and some lessons learned. So again, parents, you're in for a treat. I hope you have your pen and your paper ready to take some notes. Because I really believe you're going to get some wisdom nuggets again tonight. And my hope is that you will pick up some of the lessons and you will look at how to apply them in your life as it relates to you getting your child or your children college and career ready. All right, so y'all ready to start, ladies?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's get started. So how about this? We're going to start with you, Sydney. So, Sydney, won't you just tell the world, tell everybody, tell them who you are. Just tell us about Sydney. Who is Sydney? I know who you are, but I want you to just introduce yourself. See, this is that leadership development. She's already a leader, but, I just got to let her demonstrate it for the world.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sydney Davenport. I'm a current senior journalism major and music minor at Howard University. I'm from Lithia Springs, Georgia. Guess some of my interests and involvements are band. I'm a musician, so I play the flute. It's one of the things that's kind of led me to where I am today is just the continued pursuit of the arts. I'm a writer, another thing that's kind of opened a lot of doors for me. So I guess you can say what you want me to kind of expound upon, but that's who I am in a nutshell, writer, musician, Sydney. That's me.
And so, Sydney, you actually write for Howard, right?
Yes and no. I mean, Howard has a lot of outlets. So for like the newspaper, I'm not writing anymore, but I've had work on a lot of their online websites. Something called Truth Be Told is one of the things that I worked on last semester. That's a fact-checking site. So I've got, experience in fact-checking. I worked on 101 Magazine, another website from a professor, and that's kind of a college age, site for arts, culture, opinion pieces, things like that. I did work on the Hilltop, which is our most famous outlet, which is the newspaper, of course. I was an editor for the variety section and a kind of a contributing writer for a better part of a year. I think that's all that I've written on so far, but I'm sure there'll be a couple other things that pop up in the future this year.
Absolutely. I expect nothing less, but I want to highlight one other accomplishment before we go further. You mentioned the band. You play for the band. You play in the band, rather.
Yes.
But you also became a section leader, and did you become a section leader pretty early?
Yes, I became a section leader my sophomore year, and I did 2 years as section leader. This year, I will not be the section leader. However, I pledged the band sorority called Tau Beta Sigma, so I do a lot of background behind the scenes work. Kind of without me, I don't want to say the band wouldn't run, but I do a lot of support with the band directors and with my line sisters, who all kind of work together to do things for the band, help preparation, make sure that throughout the year things for the students are actually running very smoothly. So I'll do a lot of behind the scenes work this year, more so than being very present in the section and on the field.
Okay, awesome. So those are just a few highlights. You see, I'm very, very proud of Sydney, but we're going to come back to you in 1 second. Susan, share with us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I am a mother of 6. We're a blended family. I am a working mother, have a very active life. I'm actually an IT manager for a bank. And we have 4 college students right now. So Sydney's one of 4. We have 3 seniors and 1 sophomore, of which we are very proud. My biggest accomplishment is indeed that of being a parent.
Absolutely. And yes, you have done a great job. I may be a little biased, but I think she's all right, so let's just have a little discussion here. Sydney, tell us about how is life as a college student at Howard University, knowing that your college tuition is covered every semester?
For me, it's a lot less stressful. One of the biggest issues, I guess you could say, or concerns of students is finding out how they're going to pay every semester. Unlike what most people going into college think, you don't pay at the end of the semester your tuition, you pay your tuition at the beginning of the semester. And if you haven't, submitted a payment plan or paid anything, then they will put a hold on your account and you will be withdrawn from your classes and you'll be wondering what you're going to do. So a lot of the times at the very beginning of the year, the first thing that everyone does is goes to the financial aid building, because during the summer the year before, they didn't figure out or didn't know how, or something went wrong on their account. They didn't check their Bison Web, which is the system that we use. And something went wrong and they have to go to financial aid building and there's a line 3 hours long. And for me, I think that's been one of the greatest things that I'm blessedly allowed to skip, is the concern of financial aid at the beginning of the year. All I kind of have to do is go into my Bison Web account and hit accept and move on. And it's one of the things that I'm sad because I can't relate to as much. Until this summer, I took summer classes, which was a different deal. And I did have to go through some of that kind of financial aid runaround. But for the most part, for the last 4 years, of 1 week of struggling to get summer classes taken care of and made sure that they're paid for on the front end, if that's all I've had to do, then that's kind of been the best part about it for me.
All right. Awesome. So when you think about, you talked about the benefits now, but what about life after college? What do you think life after college is going to look like, seeing that you are not going to have any student loan debt compared to others you've seen graduate in the conversations you've had with fellow students at school?
Well, I guess for me, it's going to be more focused on my career and, going in and figuring out how to pay for and apply to grad schools. I'm going to have a very minimal amount of debt because of my summer classes, like I said, comparatively. So it's not that it's unconcerned. It's always thought about, when you have any amount of debt at all, you're always thinking about, oh, when do I have to start paying it? How am I going to pay it off? But I already right now I'm starting to think about the things that I'm going to need after I graduate. And I talked about this with my mom. I'm like, Mom, I think I'm going to need a car. I think I'm going to need a job and an apartment, and how am I going to afford all this? And shouldn't I start saving now? And what about that credit card I was supposed to apply for? Like, those are all the things that I'm already, before I've even graduated, thinking about. And it's a list. And you can tell her, like, I've talked about this with her multiple times, and about how I'm already concerned, because I had a roommate last year who was a senior, and she graduated and she was like, wow, what am I going to do? And she wasn't really trying to figure that out until March or May, when she was trying to apply for graduation, because you don't just graduate, you apply. So when she was doing all that, she was simultaneously trying to figure that out. So that's one thing that I think I want to do on the front end, and I'm already trying to do on the front end now as a student who's going into her senior year, is figure out kind of logistically what I'm going to do and set myself up for afterwards. So it's not I don't have the money, can't afford to, and don't know what I'm going to do, but I have a tentative idea of what I'm going to do, have the money to, and the capabilities and the help to do that. And all I have to do is worry about applying and securing that job that I want.
Okay, awesome. So you're already thinking ahead. You're planning and preparing, but you've already forecasted what that's going to look like so that you'll know how to plan and prepare.
Yes.
So that's awesome. See, I told y'all she's a leader. I just want you guys to see what I already know. So, so Sydney, you are this proud Howard, about to be proud Howard alum, because you're in your last year.
Yeah.
Howard was not your first choice. So can we go back? Let's go back. Can we talk about how you got to Howard?
So I guess we can just start off with, as a high school senior, thinking about college. If you don't have any clue at all, guys, it's very stressful. And I think a large part of my journey to college began because I didn't have a clue. I knew I wanted to go somewhere with a reputation. I knew I wanted it to be somewhere I could get a great education, but I didn't have a clue where. I wasn't one of those kids who, I want to go where my parents went, where they met and fell in love. Like, I wasn't one of those, I want to go where my stepsisters went. I was one of those, I want to forge my own path into the future and be awesome at whatever I do. So I started with a pile of letters from colleges, and that's how I formed my list. And they were mostly top 100 schools in the country, and I had these, I thought I was going to get in, and I thought it was going to be great, and I was going to get all the scholarship money. So I was simultaneously picking through piles of college letters and simultaneously applying to every scholarship website and scholarship thing I could find, and then going to all the schools meetings when they have those little satellite meet and greets across the country. And I was just doing it all at one time while being in high school and being in a rigorous program in high school, mind you. And it was stressful. It was a lot. And I thought I was going to, at the end of the day, in October is when I think I committed to Vanderbilt University. I went there and I fell in love with the campus. I fell in love with the idea of it. And I applied early. And I think it was maybe 2 days before the applications were due that I applied. And I got in. And I thought, wow, that was going to be it. That was my school. For October to December to January to February, I thought that was my school. And then one of the things that came with applying early was that you got your financial aid package early. I would have had to pay some tuition. Of course, we would have had to get some loans, but 3/4 roughly of the tuition was covered in the financial aid package that they sent. And I thought, that's reasonable, but if you really want something, you got to come out of pocket. You got to do a little bit more if that's what you want. But in March, April, we got the final financial aid package. And when we got that package said that maybe a little less than half of my package was covered, and then I'd have to come out of pocket for the rest of it. And I looked at my mom and I said, Mom, what are we going to do? And she said, Sydney, I don't know, you can't afford that. And I said, well, you're right. And I had to make the tough, harsh realization a month before I graduated that I couldn't go to my school that I thought I was going to for the past 4 months. And we had to start over. I'm not going to lie. I was depressed. I was upset. I didn't honestly, for a second, think I was going to go to college. I thought, you know what, maybe life is better sitting as a couch slob in my mom's house than attempting to go to college. I really had a tough time. While, again, all being in my senior year in an international baccalaureate program and studying for my exams, which I spent every day up until 2 to 3 a.m. sometimes studying for. So that was hard, but we started over with my mom and Miss Tamika's help. We did start over. We reached out to people who we thought could help, who had suggestions, and most of the people that we reached out to suggested that I look at HBCUs, which I had never considered before at all. You know, I was looking at top majority schools, and I didn't even consider, given that I have top 2 HBCU schools less than an hour away from me, I didn't even consider looking at other ones. I just knew I didn't want to be near home, and that was one of the factors. So my Aunt Greta, she reached out to a contact at Howard and sent her my information, my package, my resume, the things that I'd done, what my grades looked like. And with her help, I was accepted to Howard. Mind you, this is the day before I graduated. So a little bit stressful, a lot of shuffling around, but I committed to Howard the day before I graduated. Yeah, it was like midnight the night before that I committed to Howard, and I never looked back. And it's just been a whirlwind, but it's been very rewarding. It's been challenging, but I'm happy where I am right now.
Don't forget to mention the scholarships.
Yeah, and then Howard also did give me scholarships that paid all of my tuition, which was a factor into the decision. But again, I never looked back. And I'll say to the scholarships part, because I didn't just get those, I wasn't given those. My grades were very close to impeccable. My SAT and ACT scores were very, very good. And I did a lot. I was consistently in 6 or more clubs, and I was the leader of almost everything. So that definitely was a factor. It wasn't because I didn't put in the work. It was because I put in the work, and then someone recognized that I put in the work, and that I'm very grateful for.
Now, Sydney, you already know me, so you were reading my mind to know that that's where I was about to come. Because I really wanted to stress the point for parents and for everybody who's listening, because I get this all the time. I'm trying to find out where I can get a scholarship or where they're giving out scholarships. Mm-hmm. Scholarships are not given out. Scholarships are earned.
That's right.
So that's the point I want to make. Scholarships are not given out. Scholarships are earned. And you talked about you were in an IB program. I always mix up the words. So IB program, which is a very rigorous coursework. You were actively involved in at least six clubs. In some of those clubs, you had leadership positions in. Yeah. You didn't even talk about your community service. You did community service. Yeah. And you had a pattern of this behavior. You didn't just start doing this your senior year. You had a pattern of this behavior from your middle school years all the way up to your senior year. Yeah. So what I want to emphasize for my parents and everybody listening is this is a process. This is not something you can do overnight. Mm-hmm. So I saw some of the wows and like, oh my gosh, really? She committed to Howard the day before graduation. Well, when you have something to present, right, meaning you have something to work with, then you can get favor. Because that's what we call it, was favor.
Yeah. And I'll just give you a list just of the things that I did.
Okay.
So I was in Beta Club. I was a section leader in band for 2 years. I was in the International Baccalaureate program. I was actively in 4-H and did community service with them. I was in something called the 21st Century Leaders. And then that National Honor Society. I was vice president, I think, of FCCLA my senior year, and I was doing a bunch of like community service projects that I was actively like creating. I did a whole presentation and designed a week around it was pediatric cancer, and I did a whole push for that, in my school. So that alone is 7 clubs that I can count off the top of my head, but I know that I was in and out of a couple more as well.
Yeah, I definitely can't remember. We had a lot to put on your profile. So, parents, your child has to be involved. Schools, I talked about this yesterday. Schools are looking for leaders. They're looking for students who are well-rounded. They're looking for students who bring something to the table. So we have to position our kids accordingly so that they have a fighting chance and they can compete at that level. You're not going to, this whole college, I want to be able to go for free. It's possible, but you got to do something to position yourself to get that type of opportunity. And it can be done. It's just all about, hey, how hard do you want to work for it? Because it takes work. Sydney didn't just, you heard her say she was up studying for her exams at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. She put in some serious sweat equity. So much so, I remember fussing at her because she missed the deadline on the scholarship that she was supposed to apply to again, because we believe that she would have got it based on her applying last year. But that's another conversation. But that's the reason why I also say parents, we got to start the process of scholarship, applying for scholarships early so that you have more than one chance to apply for that scholarship, because it is competitive. And when you have a profile like Sydney's, you know, I'm not going to mention the organization, they basically told her, we look forward to you applying again next year. Because sometimes what happens when they have a lot of students who are competing and you have students who are not graduating at that time, the fact that the other child is graduating at that moment, they may give them that scholarship with the anticipation you're going to apply again the next year, and they already have you, quote unquote, slated to get it in the follow-up years. So it's a science to this. You got to know how to work the system and position yourself. But Susan, let's bring you in, because you you and your husband, we had some very intense conversations, and as Sydney said, she was not very happy about this revisiting the drawing board again and all those good things. But you have experience with all your kids from all spectrums in terms of paying for college. So let's talk about that. What kind of insight would you like to share with parents with that decision-making process? Because you and I have talked, there are parents who are allowing their kids to make the decision, and it's not the best financial decision. But you guys didn't do that.
Right. So we obviously have a lot of lessons learned, because we've been going through this for a long time. We have 6 children altogether that have been through this process. And where I was with Sydney is probably very different from where I was with my son, who graduated from high school in 2005. He was a presidential scholar, but he ended up not making the best financial decisions. He lost his scholarship, ended up getting a whole lot of student loan debt. And the experience that he had is very different from the experience that Sydney has had. Academically and extracurricular was, very, very similar. But there are a lot of lessons that I learned as a parent. Because as a parent, you want to see the best for your students. You want to give them the latitude to, direct their own future. You want to support them. But what I have learned, having gone through this so much, is they don't know what they don't know. They think they know. And a lot of times they're very passionate about it, but they need guidance. They need support. They need for you to help them through the process. But by helping them through the process, you're not always helping them by saying yes to everything, by agreeing with everything they think they want. That's what I have learned in going through this, is that we have to support them in a healthy way. We have to support them in making good, solid financial decisions as well, because again, they don't know what they don't know. So perhaps how I supported Sydney was very different from how I supported my son. And the outcome has been different as well. In Sydney's case, hearing me say this is not the best decision for you, although in your heart you're passionate about going to this school, it wasn't a very pleasant experience for her, and it wasn't a very pleasant experience for me. Because as you heard her say earlier, she had to go to Vanderbilt. But the price tag and the sacrifices she would have had to make in order to attend there. You have to weigh the benefit versus, the investment that she was going to have to make. So I've learned a lot of lessons, and I think the difference as I've evolved and supported multiple students is that I've always been hands-on, but in this case, what I've done with what I did with Sydney was I didn't say yes to everything. I didn't agree with everything she thought she wanted. And yes, I wanted to see her fulfill her dream, but I was her reality check on several occasions, and that wasn't a very pleasant experience. But as you heard her speak, you can see what the outcome was. And Mama does know something is the one thing I'm sure she's learned from that experience. It was not very pleasant. And Tamika, I know you know because you were there. You watched the whole thing play out.
We love you, Sydney. That look on her face like, okay, y'all. Yeah, so no, I'm glad that you gave that balance. Because one of the points I want to make with my parents is we have to help them understand the value of money and the importance of making hard decisions. We talked about this on Monday, when Bob gave the example of how he used the grade experience or the back to school experience with his kids, a way to teach them the value of money and budgeting. And he also does the same thing with their grades. Each grade is worth a different value point. And if they make certain grades, then it increases the value of how much money they can make, which translates into the better you perform in real life, the more opportunities you can get. So we have to have this type of conversation because I hear it all the time with kids. They think, oh, college is just this expense, and my parents their parents have the capability to pay it regardless of what the amount is.
Right.
I've even had one of my little cousins tell her mom, well, it's just $20,000 and you can do that. She just expected her mom to be able to pay that kind of money. And so when I see parents and the child going into debt because parents are taking out plus loans, right. The child is taking out student loans just for them to get a college education, it doesn't make sense because now the whole family is in debt. So we have to change the narrative and we have to take control, parents, and make sure we're providing guidance.
Right.
And helping them make the right decisions.
Right. And if I could put a price tag on it, had she gone to her original choice school, her student loan debt would have been in excess of $160,000. So we had to talk numbers with her. Now for her, if you haven't had a real job before and you don't really understand the impact that amount of debt might have, she was like, oh, okay, so what's the problem? I can just pay it back, get a good job. But that's where parental guidance comes into play. Because at one point I had to say, as your parent, I can't in good conscience allow you to get in that type of debt. And I certainly can't take that on for you to get an education, especially with the awareness and knowledge of everything that you bring to the table, which may not have meant very much to one institution, but another institution that's equally credible, where you can get an equal education and possibly even better, might recognize the value of all the attributes you bring to the table. And in the case of Howard University, that's exactly what happened. What she did not mention is not only did Sydney get a full academic scholarship, but on top of that, she got a music scholarship. She's getting paid to go to school.
Absolutely. Yes, she's getting paid to go to school. That's our goal. That's the sweet spot.
That's right.
The first thing is we want school to be 100% paid for without student loans. But the sweet spot is to get paid to go to school. And you're probably like, well, what do you mean get paid to go to school? That means you get a refund check.
That's right.
At the end of the semester. So I know, Sydney, we telling your business, but it's something to be proud of because you worked super hard and you deserve it. And every student who works hard, you can get it. And so one of the points I wanted to pull out that you said, Susan, just because you may not, one school didn't consider what you had to offer at a high value, it doesn't mean another school will not. And that is why we should always have options, because the other thing I see students do a lot is they put all their eggs in one basket. They only apply to one school, or if they apply to multiple schools, it's usually no more than 5. Well, let's play the odds of probability. You know, depending on the type of student you are, you may not get accepted to all 5 of those schools. So you have to apply to there's a science and a strategy around the whole application piece. And I talk about that in my College for Free University, but you need to apply to more than 5 schools to give yourself options. So that way you have something to work with. And Sydney had plenty of options and she had things to work with. So us going back to the drawing board was not difficult. It was just us shifting our focus on how to look at things.
Yeah, and the day before I graduated, the day I graduated, I also got a scholarship offer from LSU as well.
Yeah.
That's right, you sure did. I forgot about LSU because they were still courting you.
Yeah, they were.
Mm-hmm.
And that was for their honors college program as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's see. I'm looking at our time, 8:33. All right, so Susan, you've already given some lessons learned, but if you could give parents maybe the top 3 pointers when you think about the whole college admissions process with all the kids, and knowing the gaps and opportunities, how would you advise parents who's now embarking up on this journey that you've traveled down many times? How would you advise them? What are the things they should start doing, or some things they should stop doing now that we are starting a new school year? And Sydney, I'm going to ask you to give the same question from your point of view as a student in terms of how the parent can better support and help their child while they're starting this new school year.
Okay. So first pointer, encourage them to start early. You don't have to be a nag, but certainly encourage them strongly to start early and planning and to balance that planning between planning for college admissions, because that's one part of the process, but you cannot ignore the financial portion of as part of the overall solution of applying to college. So encourage them to start early and to plan well, both for the college admissions process as well as the financials associated with going to college. So that's the first tidbit that I would offer, a lesson learned that I have. Secondly, support them in a healthy way. And supporting them in a healthy way does not always mean saying everything. Understand what their goals are, their dreams are, but provide them with guidance. Because one of the things I learned this with my son, sometimes they see things in black and white and they don't see the gray. So it's either this way or that way, but they don't always have the reasoning skills and maturity to see other options. Help them to explore other options, in particular when they're running into roadblocks. Be of support in a healthy way. So if one thing doesn't work out, help to guide them through how to navigate through options that might work out. And then the final piece of guidance would be that the college admissions process really does not start when they fill out that first application. As you heard my daughter say, everything that she did from middle school through high school contributed to her outcome and her success, not just in terms of being admitted, but also in terms of having the finances to support going through school. So encourage them to plan well ahead of time, start thinking about the outcome before they get to their last semester of their senior year, and to start packaging themselves up. They have their own brand. There are things they have done that maybe they haven't even thought about, that as a parent, you can help them to start putting in writing, putting on paper, building a resume, building a profile that I promise you in the end will pay off dividends for them when it's time for them to actually go through the process. So those are the 3 lessons that I've learned from working with multiple college students.
Okay, one additional question. How important do you think it is to have a team in this process?
Well, for me, with all the strong personalities I've had to deal with in my household, it became very important because one of the things I learned about my young people is sometimes they don't think us as parents know. They don't think we know everything. We're too close to them, and maybe there's some emotion that we bring into it. What I have found to be beneficial is have an impartial support system that's not as close to necessarily my child as I am, that can give her a different perspective or him a different perspective about the process. And especially when we're going through, trying to navigate through it and running into roadblocks. Tamika, I'm sure you very well know, when we got down to that last month or two and things were in limbo because with some encouragement, she made the decision not to go to that first school. You know what that process was like, and it really was helpful to have you and another person whose name I would not call her godmother to step in and to be part of our team in collaborating with her to work through what her options were. I'm sure you can very well remember a Sunday when we started sitting around the dinner table early in the morning, and all we talked about was, okay, we're going back to the drawing board less than a month before she's going to graduate, and we all gave her input. And I think that balanced input really was helpful and supportive in her process of figuring out, where it was, what her options were in terms of school choices, and then working through the whole process of starting over again. Because as you know, she started over again.
Mm-hmm. I had a list. I said negatives, positives, or how you want to do it, benefits. And I wasn't, and that's just also the kind of person I am. I wasn't not analyzing every school because I didn't want my second choice to be bad. I wanted it to be just as good. I wanted it to have just as high standards. I Googled every school, read the comments, and you're right. Having a lot of people around me to say that what I was saying, it was a good or a bad, was also helpful as well. But getting to that starting over point took a lot.
Yeah, I remember that experience. I remember us. I remember going all the way back to University of Chicago to Vanderbilt.
By the way, so a little burnt about that.
You said the what?
They never accepted me, by the way.
Oh, they never accepted you. Wow. I forgot. Because I'm thinking about the comments about the dormitories and the showers. Yeah, it was a very enlightening experience. But nonetheless, here we are.
Yeah.
Here at Howard University, who loves her school and love the decision that she made. So hey, everything works out for a reason. So Sydney, what's your advice? What do you want to tell parents?
I would say hear your student, but also be realistic from the beginning with your student. So even into prep work, if you know your student hasn't joined any clubs, hasn't left your house for real for 4 years, don't tell them that they can go to an Ivy League school. Analyze your student, know who they are, and know them. So hear what they want, but also be realistic from the beginning. I feel like for me, Ivy League was possible, but I think that the work that I put in to those colleges that I didn't really know if I wanted to even go to wasn't realistic. But for the average student, start off there and tell them that and impress upon them the importance that the financial bit does play. Because I think that I don't know where I was, because it's not that I didn't understand the value of money. I just think that I was real hopeful that it was just going to work out, and it didn't. And so if from the beginning they understand the value of that much money and that much debt, that's not going to be on the parent but on them too, because you can't put all the debt on the parent. In college loans, the way that they work out is they have to split them between you and your parent. You are correct. You personally, the student, will be in debt. Your parent, more than likely, if the loan is that big, will likely be in debt. So impress upon them the importance and the impact that paying those loans off for 30 years into the future can have on them. But don't kill their dreams, make them, I think, being organized about it as well. So first, hear them and be realistic. And then 2, be organized about how you go about it. I think being organized was very important for me during my journey. We made lists, we did positives and negatives, we did spreadsheets with your ACT scores, the accepted ACT scores, like full on Excel spreadsheets dedicated to this. So I would say that would be my next or my last, or one of the things that really helped was being organized. Because if they can just look at it, if there's something to tangibly look at and say this is or is not attainable, then I think that will be even more helpful for the student as well. Tell them to print it out, put it on their wall when they figure things out as they're going through the year. But something tangible, something physical, something to look at, and something that's organized will be that much more helpful, especially if they were like me and just didn't have anywhere to start in the beginning.
Yes, and you know what? I talk about those tools in my book. So if you guys don't have any of these books, you probably want to make sure you go to collegeforfree.info and get you a set of the material to help get you set on the right track. So before we wrap up, there was one thing I did want to highlight, Sydney. We talked about your academics and the rigor of your coursework. How prepared do you think you were compared to some of your other fellow classmates? Because I want to emphasize the importance of taking rigorous coursework, because sometimes we have parents who allow their kids to pick the classes that they want. And, you know, most kids are not going to jump up and down and say, hey, put me in the most challenging course, give me the easiest class so I can have a better chance of making A's. But it's not about making an A, it's all about the rigor of the coursework. So can you speak to that, please?
I was definitely overly prepared. When I went to college, when I sat in my freshman year classes, I felt like I was the smartest person in there, and making the grades that I wanted was not difficult at all. It definitely got more difficult as I got past those initial courses, for sure. I'm not saying college doesn't get hard, but I'm saying that going into college, coming from the level of coursework that I did in the International Baccalaureate program in my school, the level of studying that I was committed to at that time for already 2 years, I was extremely prepared for what I was given in college. And I came in with 9 credits worth of college credit when I went to college because of the test that I took in high school.
Yes,
So.
you did your IB test, and so Howard accepted those for the college credits.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So, you know, it's already 8:45. You know, we've been having fun, engaging in very enlightening conversation. And I hope you all have gotten something out of this because we're about to bring this to an end. I know you probably like, no, give us more, let's ask more questions. But we got to do other things, you guys. But you know what? I definitely want to say thank you to both Sydney and Susan. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for just being transparent with our audience so that they can glean some wisdom and some knowledge from your experience. And we hope that they will take it to heart and put some action, some intentional actions in place as a result so that they can better position their kids to be college and career ready. So any parting words before we officially close out, Susan and Sydney?
I was going to ask her to share her GPA at Howard.
Oh,
If she's comfortable.
I'm looking at that look on her face. Come on, Sydney.
Tell it.
I didn't really want to. But I guess I'll say it's a 3.8.
All right, so it's a 3.8.
Yeah.
I guess I'll say it's a 3.8. That's awesome, Sydney. That's awesome. But that's hard work, that's focus, and that's commitment. And this is a 3.8 GPA with her being involved in the band, as well as, is it the traveling choir or concert? What is it called? What are you guys officially called?
Howard University Concert Band. That's it.
The Howard University Concert Band. So here's a little nugget, and then we're going to close out. The same thing youth have to do to get to college, they also have to do the same thing to transition into their careers, because companies are looking for the same type of students who are well-rounded. So you can't just go to college and just take classes and think that's all. No, you still need to be involved in the community. You still need to be actively involved in extracurricular activities and take on leadership positions as well as intern if you want to transition into a career. But that's a whole nother lesson. But I just wanted to throw that nugget out there as well. So thank you again, Sydney and Susan, for joining us this evening. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to day 3 of Crush College Debt Virtual Back to School Rally. This has been a fun first week. We have 4 more weeks to go because we're going the entire month of August. So we'll be back on Tuesday at 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I hope that you all come back ready for more information. Don't forget to share. Share this with your friends, with your family, with your colleagues. Don't just keep this information to yourself, you guys. Share it with everybody you know. We're trying to increase the awareness so that we can shift the paradigm of how we view college. So please make sure you share. If you have not gone to crushcollegedebt.com or crushcollegedebt.solutions and registered, we will be giving out prizes. Some of our guests are going to share resources and information. If you want to take advantage of that information at the end of the rally, at the end of the month, you want to make sure you register and we have your email address so that we can share the information with you. So I'm going to close out and say that parents, you can send your child to college for free. It's just going to take a lot of hard work, a strong plan, and some intentional actions. The time to be ready, again, is not the time to get ready. Our goal is to make sure you stay ready. Mm-hmm. If you stay ready, you will always be prepared for the opportunities that come your way and your child's way. This is Coach T. I'm going to sign out, and I'll see you all next week. Thank you again for joining us. Have a great evening. Good night, you guys.
Good night.